All right, so back to this. Yeah, as you can tell by the screen, we're gonna be doing some diagrams and drawing, right? Again, I've made some of these videos, usually not regarding this series, more so for JoJo's, right? But again, I wanted to, and still I haven't watched the movie yet. I need to watch that probably, hopefully, sometime today, and then once I do, I can make a live stream video on that. But again, this is something to where, at least for this, right? It's something where I wanted to make this video. I kind of touched on these subjects already, but I feel like making the diagrams for them makes it seem a lot easier. Again, both kind of how time travel breaks the sort of lore of the show, right? And then how the wish again also breaks, right? Hold on, we can do. Let's do this, right? Let's make a line down the middle. We'll go over time travel on the left, and then the lore on the right, just to make it easier. We're just drawing timelines, basically, right? So it's something to where, like, I think this should. Granted, I I don't have a ton of faith in this show to begin with. Again, I give props to season five for actually ending the show. And then actually, like, even if it came down to like using the wish, which it kind of did, right? I mean, there was really, they reached the point of no return in like season four. So it was like, again, I think it was ultimately the right decision. And I really respect the show for that. But that doesn't really, mean that there aren't, just blatant and apparent flaws with the show, which again, these will kind of basically ever since, at least for time travel, right? Ever since Time Tagger, and especially with how it was cemented in the first episode of season five, which I still thought was a great episode. I felt like that episode, like, I mean, the show recognized, all right, we need to take the time travel ability away from Gabriel, right? And they did it in such a way to where, like it actually, like, it makes sense. And it's something where it's like that there's some, like, what would you call it? Again, the big thing is the choice he made between, they did it in such a way to where it was actually like productive, mostly via the choice between setting up for that choice between Ladybug and freaking Melee, right? Again, I still think that was like one of the best episodes of that season. But again, besides the point, but again, I'm gonna quickly breeze over the time travel one, but then I'll go over the wish one and how the creation of a new reality really just kind of fundamentally breaks just the lore and timeline of the show, especially when you take Time Tagger into consideration, the fact that Time Tagger was sent from the new reality. So, and again, I'm going to tie these into each other. So we'll go over real quick. All right. So we have a line here. Actually, hold on. Let's do it. Actually, hold on. let's do this horizontal because it's easier for me to draw that way. So the top will be time travel, and the bottom will be reality, right? And I'll kind of go over. So time travel, right? This is the timeline from beginning of the universe to end of the universe, right? Obviously very, like, what would you call it? Just imagine that. And I think we all know how powerful time travel is as an ability as well as that miraculous, because it's basically not only time travel, not only can you teleport, but and you can also just change fate itself by going back in time and preventing or ensuring certain things happen. So just changing the whole timeline. So basically, you're just, like, again, it's just stupidly, like, I still question why they even introduced such a power to the show, because it just fundamentally breaks, like, just again, basically just the laws of the show. It just fundamentally breaks, the show itself, right? But again, it's something to where, yeah, again, just in what it comes down to is that, yeah, like, that's kind of where it's like, all right, the show is just, at this point, it's just broken, right? Like, they can't really like fix it. Like, even though we know the future was set in stone, just the existence of this power itself, right, breaks the show. So anyway, I'm gonna get into that here. So again, so there's, let's say, and I feel like this is the best way to put it, right? Let's start off with Time Tagger. Ever since Time Tagger, that's really what showed that, it was broken, right? Because this is what Time Tagger showed, right? Let's say there's a moment in time, that dot where Hawkmoth is about to win, or let's say something is about to happen, right? Well, I mean, simple, time tagger or just anyone possessing that miraculous can come from whatever point in the future. Again, not only in the future actually, but they could also theoretically the past as well. Obviously, we don't know how that worked or like, who owned it in the past, but they could just come back to the present and stop that from happening. I mean, I think everyone like kind of realized that like Hawkmoth literally cannot win. Um, give him that, just any point he would, right? They would just simply, at least from what we thought at the time, was they would just simply go back in time and stop it, right? I mean, theoretically, someone can come forward in time, just at any point in time, they can just enter the present and then prevent that from happening, right? So the crazy thing to note is because of the way time travel works through that like medium with all those portals, again, not only are you actually able to go back in time, but you can also just teleport anywhere and you can observe events that happen, which again, also breaks it because you can literally just find out the identities of anyone just based off of you simply, just you would just scroll, right? And then up until the point to where they actually find and use their miraculous for the first time. So literally anyone with this could also just find out the identities of any heroes at any point in time, right? By doing that. So again, it's something to where, and this is from the very start in the introduction of this ability, right? That's kind of what the precedent was set as, and again, what it really came down to. Now, obviously, in season 5, and again, this is simply from that time tagger episode, right? So this is what we know from there. Now, and then also it's utilized a bit in season 4. I mean, the big thing there was it was only really utilized in the finale, I believe. Again, from like Lay's specifically again because it was risk, right? Ladybug took a risk by utilizing that power and ability, right? So that was the whole point of that. But again, it's more so in season 5 things change right now. First off, and I think what we need to address is why I came up with a reasonable, sort of explanation as to why it wasn't used in the finale. Again, the reason why was simply because it was a world-ending apocalyptic scenario, and the wish needed to happen in order to, again, avoid and avert that crisis. Again, we that was something that I kind of at least what makes sense to me. I'm not saying it's a good explanation, and I'm not saying it's the reason, but what I will say is that it at least that's a explanation I can think of. You know, that's what I'm gonna put out there is that it was an apocalyptic crisis, like world-ending scenario, to where the wish needed to happen to avoid it, right? Which is why no one came forward in time, no one came backwards in time. And also we'll go over this in the new reality section, right? But you can kind of debate of, oh, if it's an alternate reality, which I'll go over, then they can't really, well, that we know that's not true based off time tagger. But again, which also even increases the power of this miraculous even more, given that you can travel through alternate realities, which again, we'll also go over in the new reality. Again, time, like I have no idea why they introduced this as an ability in the series because this is the result, right? But that's the best explanation I could think of is just that it needed to happen to prevent the apocalypse and end of the world. I mean, it was literally, Natalie put it that way, all of humankind against, labeling Shadow. I mean, at the end of the day, I guess it could have come back right before Gabriel did that and fought him, but it's also something where he has literally every single or mostly every armor miraculous, right? So it's like to be fair, Ladybug still beat him with only 2, but again, something to where that is my best explanation. But besides that, where the problem in season 5 lies, right, is episode 1 and how this again, makes time travel even more busted is that we learn that multiple, of the again, of that miraculous, right? The rabbit one, that allows for time travel. Multiple of them can exist at one point in time. So again, let's say this center dot is where, let's say, all right, these dots now represent holders of the time travel miraculous, right? They let's say this present one, in the middle, right? Oh, I don't have a color shows it. All right, hold on. Okay. Yeah, let's say this present one is again Hawkmoth getting it and utilizing it in season 5, episode 1, right? So not only can again is he gonna use it to try to go back in time, right? Well, let's say this is a point in time to where he has a time miraculous. Someone from the future and what we see Alex do, right? They can come back to the present and they can actually there can be two time travel miraculous, like at that point in time, which again, is something to where it's like basically what that means is that, and then someone from the past can come, right? Okay, that was a very terrible dot. Someone from the past can come forward, right? You know, basically there can be a theoretically like infinite number of time records along an infinite number of timelines coming back to whatever the present or just any point in time, right? It's something to where like a simple rule to be made could be that, oh, only, you know, whoever holds the miraculous can only go back to a period in time to where they have said, miraculous, right? So, like, let's say, you know, Alex can only come back to times to where she holds the time miraculous, or points to where no one does, right? Because again, in Time Tagger, it's revealed that, yeah, it was just kind of she basically had it was a weird circular thing to where her future self made her past self discovered so she could go and be her again. Time travel, it's just such a stupid. I have no idea why they introduced it to this show. But again, it's something there to where it's like, but a simple rule could have been, oh, you can only go back to a period of time to where you yourself have it, right? Mm. But we learned that's not necessarily the case. So, okay, so that there would only be one, actual owner or user of the time travel ability miraculous like in that period of time. But again, given that we see Alex go back to the present where Hogwarts has it, or Gabriel does, right? It shows that multiple users in a seemingly infinite number can exist at one or any period of time along an infinite number. Again, it's just I really have no idea why they introduced, but again, that's like it's insane, like how they keep like again, it really is insane. Like they made this literally like the most busted ability they possibly could have, with the exception of just one that completely alters reality, which this could seemingly even beat out, given that Time Tagger was sent from a new and alternate reality, right? Which again, I feel like I went over time travel enough. Now, with that out of the way, we can kind of get into the new reality. So let's break this into well, how do we want to do this? Let's do it this way. We have a timeline, right? This is where Gabriel made the wish, and this is kind of what I want to get into because we all already know how broken time travel is, and I've already made like videos on that, just never really using a diagram to show how broken it is, right? But I don't think this is something I want to talk about because I don't think people realize how just how the wish actually kind of breaks laws of the show and how it kind of breaks how reality works in the show. So again, I'm going to go over that now. So let's ignore. I'm going to ignore that are already present issues regarding the wish, such as people in the new reality knowing about the old reality. Theoretically, Gabriel would make the wish, and then everyone's, I guess, memories of the old reality would simply disappear. But we already know of at least like 3 or 4 other people, right? Who are aware of the old reality, free wish. And again, the reason I say new and old reality, and I realize I should get in this first, is again, there the wish again, it doesn't just change reality. It creates an entirely new reality as a result. And I'm gonna go into that here. So Gabriel makes the wish, right? So re-wish time, right? He makes the wish post-wish time. However, we know that the wish changes certain things in reality in the present, right? I'm going to make this line, right? We know the wish changes certain things in reality and certain things in the present. At the very least, we know that Natalie was revived, we know that she never used the Peacock miraculous, right? Given that she wasn't injured and didn't die as a result. And we know that she likely, hold on, and we know that she likely never either allied with Gabriel or even, well, she likely also never knew that he was Hawkmoth to begin with, right? Or Monarch, right? So, or else, she would have, like, again, she would have, like, rat him out or done, whatever, right? Because in order for her to know that, she would have needed to become Maora, right? As a result, based on what he did. So again, we know that she had never utilized the broken or damaged Peon Rasmus because she wasn't injured, wasn't dead and revived, right? We know that she likely never even knew that he was again Hawkmoth, right? Or what would you call it? Likely never knew that he was Hawkmoth to begin with, which we know, funny enough, based off of the Rise of Sphinx game, which I played, right? That it goes back to years before anything happens in the show, right? And then along with that, there's also the possibility of it's unclear whether or not that woman's a melee or a melee, right? At first, I thought it was a melee, but it's something to where I think it honestly makes more sense that like it's actually just a melee and he's kind of, I guess, quote unquote, like reunited with his wife in the afterlife, I guess is a way to put it. But so I'm going to go off on a limb and say that woman is a melee, so we don't need to worry about the possibility of melee being revived, and then pretty much the entirety of like, the timeline changing. But even so, we know that simply due to Natalie being revived, basically things change and go back as far as her never knowing that again, Gabriel's Hawkmoth to begin with, given that Monarch still exists in this universe, because Gabriel, everyone is seemingly in the new reality under the impression that he died fighting and defeating Monarch. So Hawkmoth still existed. They just, again, what was changed was that nobody knows, again, with the exception of like Marinette and a few others, which again kind of breaks continuity and the like sort of laws and of reality, right? But again, besides the point. But the big thing being that we know changes go as far back as to before Gabriel even becomes Hawkmoth. So obviously, the new reality, we know there are changes made, right, regarding the future. And again, this is what this line represents is sort of a point in time where he makes the wish, right? So again, before what would have been after if he didn't make the wish, and then oh Jesus Christ, my freaking okay, there we go. And what was actually after since he made the wish, right? You know. However, we know based on Italy being revived, changes go back as far as to before Gabriel even became Hawkmoth. So some changes needed to be made here in the past, which is what fundamentally breaks again, kind of in breaks, continuity as well as the laws of kind of, how reality fundamentally works within the show. So we know again, it's you don't need to make changes to the entire timeline of the past, right? I mean, arguably you do, and I'm going to get into that later on, but we know tangibly for a fact at least some of the past up until whatever point. And again, Jesus Christ, why do I keep losing the ability? All right, up until the point to where, you know, pretty much Gabriel discovers the miraculous, right? And decides to become Hawkmoth. When we have a point in time directly then at Rise and Sphinx, right? Or at again, not necessarily, when Gabriel decides to become Hawkmoth and Natalie, knows about that, but arguably, debatably before, again, just once he finds the miraculous, given that, theoretically Natalie wouldn't even know, at least in this reality, right, that he was even a miraculous user and had, the miraculous that Monarch used. So again, we know changes are made all the way up until the point to where Gabriel finds the miraculous, basically, right? Because Natalie being revived and not knowing that he was Monarch means that she must have never known that he had those said miraculous being with. So the new reality changes the past up until a certain point here, and debatably the rest of the past can be just what was the old reality. However, I'm going to get into why that isn't the case, or why seemingly the entirety of the past must be changed. And that is due to time travel up here, right? Because we know based on the time miraculous, right? Okay, that was a horrible line. That again, Alex had to go back in time and basically set up for herself to be her future self went back in time and set up so that her past self could acquire and gain it, right? So that she can have it in the future. So again, it's a circular loop, right? But it's something there to where because again, this would take place in the new reality, it's something to where either in I guess it's not necessarily that the new reality past goes to that point, but what this kind of gets into and the problem is also evident in time tagger because time tagger happens in the old reality, right? Pre-wish, right? So Alex from the future, right? Or more specifically, the Hawkmoth of the future, Lila, right? Again, sends Time Tagger not only to the past, but to the old reality, right? Again, in it's something to where so not only is it sent to the past in the old reality, but he also knows and is aware that Gabriel is not the Hawkmoth, or at least not necessarily. Originally, I thought that it meant that Time Tagger knew who Gabriel was, right? Or, knew that he was hot, but not necessarily. All that would require or know is that, or what would sort of make sense is that, Monarch was defeated, right? And that a new Hawkmoth kind of, rose from the ashes, I guess, right? So it doesn't necessarily mean that, again, he knew, and this was my original flaw and mistake. It doesn't necessarily mean or know that he knows that Gabriel's Hawkmoth. Just all it really means and knows is that, they know that Monarch was defeated and that the current Hawkmoth in the future, right, which will soon become the present, is a different Hawkmoth. So again, but the problem being it was sent to, and especially because here's the thing, right? So, because what we know is that let me redo this to try to actually like get a better sort of form. I need an eraser so I can better visualize this, right? So, again, it here's the problem. It goes till because it doesn't even necessarily go to a point in the old reality. Jesus Christ, it doesn't go to a point in the old reality to where it doesn't overlap with the new reality, right? The problem is that it does go to a point in the old reality. Jesus, I keep losing my ability to draw with the marker. There we go. It goes to a point in the old reality, right? Where it overlaps with the new one. Because again, it's after Gabriel became Hawkmoth. And Natalie would have known that he was Hawkmoth because she even consoles him afterwards. But again, we know in the new reality, right? That again, given that she never knew he was Hawkmoth based on the changes that the wish made and the subsequent changes to the past it would need to make, is that it's something to where again, it's something to where she wouldn't have known that given what we know about the new reality, right? So what sort of comes about as a result is not only can not only right is it something to where again, you again, not only is there this issue of all right, based on kind of inconsistencies, like because if they wanted to be consistent, Hawkmoth would have made the wish. Shit would have changed completely, and nobody would know about the old reality. There would be zero interactions. This new reality would completely overlap the old. However, the fact that we know in the future, Time Tagger sends to the past of the old reality, right? Versus the past to the new reality at this point, where again, neither Natalie wouldn't have known about what would you call it? Gabriel being Hawkmoth, right? She wouldn't have like known about that or supported that. Again, it's something there to where it's like, you know, what would you call it? Again, it actually like it shows that both the old as well as the new reality exists like they coincide, right? There's like again, not only do we know the new reality changes some of the past, right? Given that again, Natalie never used that again, she was brought back, so no one would have known again, excluding like the few that are aware of the old reality. no one would have known that she just effectively wouldn't have used that Peacock miraculous, right? Along with her subsequently also for that to happen, she would have never needed to know about Gabriel being Hawkmoth, right? So the changes go back all the way here, tangible changes. I was going to make the argument to where it changes the entire past, but we can't really make that bridge just yet, right? It's something where we know the past has changed up into where basically just Gabriel finds the miraculous, right? Because again, Natalie, her being revived and not ever having used the Peacock one shows with people remembering that, right? Shows that again, it had to have been changed up until that point. But again, the problem being given that time tagger wasn't sent to this point in the new reality, but that point in the old one shows that, it still exists, that there's still some overlap, right? Technically, we don't even need because I made this timeline as like sort of part of the future for what would you call it? I made that timeline as kind of part of the future of the old reality had the wish never been made, right? But the problem being, I guess you can make the argument that this is simply the future over here, right? In that it's one timeline. The problem is this period right here. And it's funny how even post Wish, Time Tagger is just breaking the laws of the universe, right? Like that single episode really just like fucks everything up in terms of like the consistency and continuity of the show. This period outlined here is where the problems, okay, that was, is where the problems lie, right? In the fact that Time Tagger was sent to the old reality, right? Again, let me make this more clear. So this period's the problem, right? Where Time Tagger was sent to the old reality, right? Rather than the new one in the past. So not only again, is there some sort of overlap in the old reality still exists in tandem and alongside the new reality, right? You know, because I mean, in the event that Gabriel was never Hawkmoth in the new reality, right? Or at the very least, that he never utilized Mayura as he did, right? Given that Natalie didn't suffer the effects of that. It's something to where, you know, that he could have never existed in the old reality that way, where Mayura saved him in the season 2 finale. Maybe there were some changes, but again, even then, that still is part of that new reality, right? Which is again, so not only is there this overlap of realities, but the actual fucking miraculous time travel can not only travel through time, right? But also through different realities, which is just absolutely insane. Like if you didn't think this ability was busted enough, like this is just cement and proof of that. Like it literally just gets stronger and stronger as the series goes on, simply because things like this are like overlooked. To where now not only do we know it can travel through time and that multiple of it can exist in one period of time, but we also know it can travel to different realities as well, like all sort of overlapping realities at different points in time. Again, this box right here is really what breaks this show and kind of, again, just how those different realities, right, sort of overlap based off of, funny enough, like if Time Taggers an episode did not exist, and I've said this many times, Time Taggers should not exist, that Felix episode should not exist. I have no idea. Granted, at least they made something of his character arc. That should not exist, right? But, Time Tagger, especially, if that episode just didn't exist, this problem wouldn't be the case. And again, I think that's where I'm going to end this. It's been about 30, and I feel like I've done a good job explaining just how, like, sort of like, funny enough, let's, can I erase the entire board? Because this is what we're given ever since they introduced the ability of time travel. This is what we're dealing with now, right? However, it's something to where can I select and then delete all? All right, never mind. However, it's something to where if that simply did not exist, if time travel did not exist in the series, okay, hold on. Jesus Christ. If time travel did not exist, this is what we'd be working with. A tangible timeline where nothing crazy happens. Maybe the wish happens at some point, but it wouldn't really have an impact given there aren't overlapping realities and time travel involved. But with that, I'm going to end it here. I don't really have anything else to say. So, yep. That's it for this one. See you in the next one.